A Plaguelands Media production.
Hey everyone, this is Hugh from Plaguelands Media bringing you another book review, although this one is going to be in 3 parts today because it's a Marvel Omnibus edition. But before I do that, I just want to give a big shout out to my friends Dr. Luke Carmen and Mr. Ian Van Gamet. Cheers, guys. Safontifying. That one's for you. Oh, you know what I'm talking about. Now, today I'm looking at X-Men, The Hidden Years. This is an omnibus edition that collects the complete run of X-Men, The Hidden Years, issues 1 to 22, which was released December of 1999. The run went until, I believe, September of 2001. You also get 3 issues of Fantastic Four, 102, 103, 104, and a story from Amazing Adult Fantasy issue 14. I'm a huge fan of the X-Men ever since the 90s when I started collecting comics. The animated series had just come out, and it was right around the end of, I believe it was the Extinction Agenda story arc, the one with Strife and Cable, which led into Fatal Attractions, which was the huge storyline where Magneto ripped the adamantium off of Wolverine's skeleton, which then led into the Onslaught saga, which led into Operation Zero Tolerance with Bastion. You got Generation X, which was the team that Jubilee was kind of a part of for a while there, that brought you characters like Husk, that was Cannonball's sister, and M, and a whole lot of fantastic stuff. As such, I wasn't really, I knew about the early X-Men team, of course, who freaking didn't at the time, but I never had a chance to read any of the comics short of some trade paperbacks of the Dark Phoenix saga and Days of Future Past and Prometheus and things like that. Back in the day, X-Men, although they were popular, the comic wasn't selling as well as it should have. So between issue, I believe, 67 to 93, I could be wrong about that. If I am, please correct me in the comments below. We're just reprinting old stories. John Byrne has gone on the record to say that he had a lot more stories to tell, but he couldn't tell them because they were simply just running reprints of the older stuff, so they didn't have to pay the writers and whatnot for a book that wasn't selling as well as it should have. X-Men: The Hidden Years is an attempt to fill in the gaps there. This is the original team of Cyclops, Marvel Girl, Beast, Iceman, and Angel. And it starts just after Professor X has come back from supposedly being dead after the Xenox invasion. And we have Havoc, who is Alex Summers, Scott Summers, Cyclops' younger brother, and Lorna Dane, who will go on to become Polaris, who is the supposed daughter of Magneto, on the team as well. So it's a very small roster of X-Men. However, in this collection, we do see some kind of crossovers with more modern X-Men characters, such as Storm and whatnot. We see some throwbacks to earlier stories. But most pivotal of all is the tie-in John Burns does with the 3-issue arc of Fantastic Four, which is collected in this edition. Now, for those of you that don't want any spoilers, I'm just going to say right now, I thought this was a fantastic omnibus edition, one of the better ones that I have read. The art is crisp and clear, phenomenal. The panel layouts are superb on every page. There is never a dull moment. There are some stupid moments, don't get me wrong. There's always going to be, but there's never a dull moment. So if you just want to end it there, go off, check it out yourself, or don't. That's your prerogative, depending on what you feel like. It's all good. However, if you do want to know about these stories, my opinions on them, my take on them, and I warn you, in some of these videos, I will go on rants. So you might want to stay tuned for those. But you know what? Let's just take one more sip of this delicious Chilean red. So fine. Yeah, you know who that was intended for. Ian Van Gammon, Luke Carmen. We'll just move on to the next 3-part episode of
Read a fucking book. 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 People.
So this is, pardon me, this is X-Men The Hidden Years. We're just going to go through each of the issues that comes in this omnibus edition, this absolutely beautiful omnibus edition. The art and the panel layout and the panel design, in my personal opinion, is absolutely spectacular. So let's have a look at this cover. We've got Professor X, Angel, Cyclops, Beast, Marvel Girl, Jean Grey, and Iceman, the original X-Men team. Okay. So we start with a little throwback to X-Men 94, where you have the team kind of being reunited with Professor X. They had presumed him dead, but he went into hiding to stop an alien invasion. And they have this ship made out of kind of Sentinel technology. And as they're working on it and talking about how bizarre the Professor seems to be, they get attacked by Magneto. And the Blob and Juggernaut, some of their heaviest hitters. We have Toad thrown in there as well. And as these villains and the X-Men are kind of going at it and getting a leg up, it's all just a test by Professor Xavier. And Cyclops thinks it's a tad unnecessary. They've been holding their own pretty well since the Professor was presumed dead. And he thinks it's kind of cruel. So then we move into X-Men The Hidden Years. Issue 1. We come to the epilogue where they are fighting the Hulk. And the Hulk kind of smashes down and uncovers this underground base. And we have Havoc and Polaris, Lorna Dane. Havoc, of course, the younger brother of Cyclops. Lorna Dane Polaris, the presumed daughter of Magneto. And they're all happy that Professor X is back and recovered. So the prologue of the story has Iceman pissing off. He's angry that Professor X faked his own death and didn't tell them. So he basically leaves the group. They're talking about the battle, the last battle they had with Magneto. Professor X is kind of annoyed that they didn't make sure that Magneto is dead. We get a whole lot of the adventures that have been going on since Professor X kind of disappeared. We have Sauron here, Kazar in the Savage Land, and the battle with Magneto, Sunfire, of course. And the Professor starts to get really infuriated. I taught you better than this. You have to go back there and you have to make sure that he is dead. So they take the Sentinel refurbished ship back to the Savage Land, and they're talking about how weird the Professor has been. We have this kind of love triangle between Iceman, Havoc, and Lorna. Lorna, of course, famously has always kind of been the girlfriend of Alex Summers, who is Havoc. Bobby Drake has always just been kind of a bit of a Lothario. Although in the modern X-Men comics now, he is in fact a gay character, which doesn't actually... it's not one of those things that Marvel threw in there just to be woke or whatever, however you want to put it. It actually works within the confines of the story. As much as I've read of it, I'm not hugely up to date with the modern X-Men. So Havoc and Iceman start to fight over Lorna, which kind of gets a little out of control. Angel flies down to kind of scout out the Savage Land. Those of you that don't know, the Savage Land is this hidden kind of land in Antarctica with dinosaurs and all that kind of really cool stuff. And the ship starts to kind of go down. Cyclops kind of clears a path as the ship itself crashes. And they are confronted with Savage Land natives who shoot them with darts. Beast, who can kind of shake it off, manages to fight back. They wake up in the hut of one of the natives, and they discover that Marvel Girl is gone. We are then brought to this temple with this amphibious guy who is kind of under the sway of the ghost of Magneto. And there ends issue 1, leading into issue 2. Cyclops is upset because he thinks that Marvel Girl has in fact passed away. So he goes off on his own, and in a fit of rage, he starts blasting everything with his I-beams, gets attacked by Tyrannosaurus Rex. Awesome art, awesome panel layouts in these issues. I just have to point that out now. The panel layouts are phenomenal. I think the most panels on any given page is 6. And then you have the awesome splash pages. He's rescued by Beast and Angel, who kind of tell him to calm the fuck down. Then we have Iceman, who has crashed on the couch of like an ex-girlfriend. He kind of senses that his friends are in trouble, and he goes off half-cocked looking for them. Then we have we're introduced to Candy Southern here. Now, she is the girlfriend of Warren Worthington III, who is Angel, and she actually knows that he is Angel. She knows that he is an X-Man, and she knows where the X-Men live. Angel has kind of told her everything. So they're trying to work out what has happened to Marvel Girl. Marvel Girl is in fact with these kind of avian creatures, pardon me, with the ghost of Magneto kind of standing over her. So they go off kind of searching. They find some more natives, get attacked. There's a fight as per usual. And they see this strange kind of avian-looking creature. They manage to escape, but Cyclops gets hit in the chest with an arrow. And during their escape, they come to this kind of hidden, ruined city. Beast kind of doesn't know what to do. Cyclops just pulls the arrow out, and for some reason he is kind of miraculously healed. They don't quite understand what is going on with that. Angel gets caught in these kind of strange gusts of wind, these updrafts, and he gets smashed against the cliff and falls unconscious as an avian figure lands next to him. Okay, issue 2. Havoc and Lorna have gone off in search of... So this is issue 3. Havoc and Lorna have gone off in search of the original X-Men team. They're headed out to the Savage Land, guided, of course, by Professor Xavier in his astral form. We get a bit of the backstory just to fill in new readers there. And Angel is kind of worried about his friends. His friends have been trapped in a cage. They get attacked by more of these winged creatures and end up escaping. In the meantime, Jean Grey, who pretends to be unconscious, but she's actually not, uses her powers to get the keys to open the door to her cell, where she sees the ghost of Magneto and this guy Amphibious. Psyche and Beast are trying to work out how Cyclops got healed as they're exploring the city. Now we see Kazar and his animal companion, who have kind of been tracking the ship that Havoc and Polaris, who actually goes by Lorna. She doesn't get the codename Polaris until much, much later in the series. So he kind of meets them, and the X-Men, the original X-Men, have had a run-in with Kazar before, so he kind of knows them, and he's like, come on, I'll help you find them. Jean Grey is watching the ghost of Magneto kind of control all these people, and she realizes that Magneto maybe isn't dead. So Angel is captured and taken on board a ship with these other avian people kind of there, and we see the kind of tribe and the woman that, I believe her name is Avia in this, the bird woman that kind of saved him. Cyclops and Beast are exploring this kind of hidden city. They come across one of these winged bird people. Beast smashes the crap out of him, of course. And then they see on this beautiful 2-page splash page what appears to be a very crude, very rudimentary form of a Zeppelin or an airship. And suddenly Jean Grey is ambushed by the ghost of Magneto, who kind of knocks her out by putting his fingers through her head. Okay, issue 4, Escape to Oblivion. The ghost of Magneto is interrogating Jean Grey. You know, what the fuck are you doing here? Kind of a deal. And then we go over the last encounter the X-Men had with Magneto. And when everything collapsed during that last battle, which I believe they tell you was in Uncanny X-Men 63. Everything collapsed. They thought he was dead, but he was actually, the floor below him dropped, and he was led further into this temple where he managed to survive. Angel is trying to get help from this tribe that have kind of taken him, and with this kind of bird chick, to go and help his friends. Beast and Cyclops speculating on what the Zeppelin thing is. Magneto is basically just, doing the villain monologuing thing that we've all come to know and love. Iceman, Bobby Drake, is trying to charter a flight to Antarctica, but the guy's like, the storm's too bad, I ain't going there. Jean Grey reaches out telepathically to Cyclops, so they know that she's alive, she's okay, and that Magneto is kind of behind this, while Angel and Avia kind of fly off. We see that this city has kind of been built in the crater of a volcano, and the volcano, the Earth's tectonic plates are starting to shift here, and this volcano is going to erupt, and this place is going to be destroyed. Oh, that's good squishy. So we see Magneto now with his helm and his little power pack. And Beast and Cyclops turn up. They get into a fight, which is always good to see the X-Men teaming up on Magneto. I have mixed feelings about the character of Magneto. I think a lot of writers have used him to extremes. He's either all bad or all good. I did enjoy the Onslaught Saga version where he had amnesia and he was known as Joseph. The Fatal Attractions Magneto, who ripped the adamantium out of Wolverine's off of Wolverine's skeleton, was also a very good incarnation of Magneto as just a guy that's been pushed like that one step too far. But Magneto is kind of a very delicate character in that it's either too much or too little. But that's just my opinion. So they get in the fight with Magneto. They end up defeating him, but the shit hits the fan and everything starts to kind of crumble. Scott is trying to make an exit so all of the citizens of the city, these bird people and the other slaves and whatnot, can get the fuck out of there. And everything's kind of falling, crashing down around the place. They try to make it to the Zeppelin to use that to escape as kind of the lava starts to destroy the city. And they manage to get to the ship that is going to be kind of propelled by these balloons. And unfortunately, the shit hits the fan and this thing starts to break up while Jean Grey is trying to hold it together. Okay. Now we have Candy Southern, I believe her name is, coming to the X-Men's mansion. She gets trapped by the robotic guard and the other booby traps and stuff that have been put around there until she meets Professor X. She lets Professor X know that she knows what's going on with this place and she's here because she has something important to tell Angel, which will come into play in a later issue. So the storm kind of rages. Iceman is kind of using it as a means to get to the Savage Land if he can, trying to help his friends, even though he did quit the team. The Zeppelin starts to break apart. They've got Magneto as prisoner, of course. And as everything starts to go wrong, someone is thrown out of the ship. Aviana tries to go after this person. And then we have Havoc, Polaris, and Kaiser trying to find out the last known coordinates. Now, this is a bit of a problem with X-Men The Hidden Years, is that a lot of the times the teams are split and they're just one step behind one another. And it's fine here. This is the beginning of the story, these lost issues or lost adventures, so to speak. So it's fine here. But later on, it starts to get really, really fucking annoying. Like, just irksome. That's not to say that I don't enjoy X-Men The Hidden Years. I fucking love this. But there comes a point where it's using the same tired trope over and over and over again. And that's not something that you want in an X-Men comic book, or any comic book really, that's kind of telling a long extended narrative over 22 issues. Beast tries to do his thing, tries to help Angel, who's gone after Aviana. Of course, he can't do it. He manages to get Angel back, but everything kind of goes wrong. And while they're trying to repair and fix the ship, they have to jump on different separate balloons, and they all get split up naturally. And Beast manages to kind of guide his balloon and land somewhere where he sees, or he lands in front of somebody. We can kind of guess who this is. This is, of course, Storm. Although they don't know who she is, they don't know that she's Aurora Monroe, they don't know that she has weather powers. This is technically their first meeting of Storm, even though I believe the first appearance of Storm was in giant-sized X-Men #1. I think that was the first appearance of Storm. However, I could be wrong. So then we move into now issue 6. And we see Iceman has washed up on some island shore. We see a pterodactyl here. And the pterodactyl is kind of beaten off by this gentleman. And when this gentleman gets near Bobby, we see he starts to kind of drain his energy. Now, those of you that know anything about the X-Men, that watched X-Men the animated series or have read X-Men comics, know that this is Karl Lykos, otherwise known as Sauron. He first appeared in the X-Men #9, which I believe was, I want to say 1968 or 69. I'm going to go with 69, but I'm probably wrong with that. It could have been 68 was Sauron's first appearance. This character has the ability to drain life essence from people. If he drains too much, he turns into like this pterodactyl guy, which you'll see a bit later on. Candy is talking to Professor X, letting him know why she's there and what's going on. In the meantime, Beast has been brought by Aurora to her kind of tribe, where he kind of recounts what has happened and what is going on, and Aurora lets him know that there is kind of a danger here. Jean Grey is kind of running around in the wilderness, and then we come across this character here. And this is, pardon me, this is the villain of this kind of mini story arc. He steals or drains energy and power. And in this case, he's kind of caused the storm that Aurora created to go out of control. She was doing it to help irrigate crops and stuff like that. He is just now using it for his own power. He takes off Cyclops' visor and realizes the energy beams are super powerful. And from the village that Storm has taken Hank McCoy, Beast, they see the red beam shoot up from the jungle. Beast knows immediately what it is. And he's like, we got to go there. And we got to fucking go there now. Havoc, Polaris, Lorna. I keep saying Polaris. She isn't Polaris yet. She's still Lorna. Are with Kazar. They go to the last known coordinates and they see that the volcano has kind of erupted. And when they get there, all of the survivors are muy pissed off and they start throwing rocks at him, hitting Kazar in the head. And Havoc uses his ability to basically take them out. Jean comes across this villain who they fight. The villain gets the upper hand, then Beast shows up and Beast starts to pummel the crap out of this guy. Storm shows up and this guy manages to take them all down because he's super powerful, because he's stolen energy from Storm, from Cyclops' eye beams. And you kind of know how that goes. So he manages to capture them. He ties them up, focuses his energy on the Storm. This is where he names himself. He names himself Deluge, which, okay, I get it. You're playing with rain and stuff. That's a cool name. Whatever, floats your boat, buddy. And you see the water kind of coming in, and the poles that they are tied to are suddenly underwater. Now we find Angel has landed because he got split up from them, remember? They were on those weird balloon thingies. And Angel has landed in the water. A ship has come across him. They pull him out of the water and someone comments, hey, he's got wings just like the other person we found. And they drag the unconscious Angel in and dump him with Aviana or Avia, whatever her name is. I forget. 22 issues. I read it like a week and a half ago. So there you go. And so they're on board this ship. Okay. So we get a little kind of, a few minutes before the water comes in and they're all tied to the stakes, trying to work out how to get out. At this point, Cyclops is unconscious, so he can't be any help. And Jean Grey decides to use her telepathic abilities to manipulate Cyclops into unleashing his beam, which manages to kind of bust through rock and drain some of the water away. So they do manage to survive and get out with the help of Storm. Here we see Iceman and Lycos here. And they're kind of in this, I guess, a German settlement, something. There's something about German explorers or whatever on this island that is technically part of the Savage Land. And they kind of have a back and forth. So this character of Karl Lycos, his whole goal is to not hurt people. Because when he drains life energy, when he drains enough of it, he turns into Sauron. Sauron is a villain. He doesn't like that side of himself. So he has kind of isolated himself and has been living off draining the dinosaurs. So he's trying his best to stay away from Iceman, but at the same time help him, even though he knows that Iceman is one of the X-Men and that they fought him previously in the X-Men issue 9. Havoc, Lorna, and Kazar talk to the tribe that attacked them. Then we get a little bit of the history of Deluge from Storm. We find out that Deluge was a boy from an African tribe who was born with very pale skin, so they banished him. He came across 2 missionaries. The missionaries took him in, gave him, shelter. They educated him, and tried to help him. And then when his kind of abilities were discovered by the government, they took him back and they were like testing him, and then he went apeshit, and typical supervillain fucking backstory. I don't mind it. I think it's kind of cool. And then he came back to get revenge, and that's when he realized Storm had this power and he was going to harness the power of the Storm and blah, 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 blah. So they're trying to work out how to take out Deluge. Deluge and Storm fight. And Cyclops tries to use his energy abilities. Deluge, however, can harness that energy. And it's ultimately quite ineffective. Instead, making him more powerful, which is what they wanted. Too much energy, and he basically goes kaboom, and the X-Men save the day. Storm flies off. Everybody's happy. Kind of. The people on board this ship that have Angel and the Bird Woman captive decide this is the kind of thing that we can sell. So they decide to kind of do that. Beast, Cyclops, and Marvel Girl get back to the X-Mansion where they're confronted with intruders, and we find out that these intruders are in fact the Fantastic Four. We have Mr. Fantastic, Human Torch, Johnny Storm, Ben Grimm, of course Reed Richards, and we have Crystal. Crystal is an Inhuman, I believe, and at the time was kind of a newer edition. I believe she was dating or engaged to Johnny Storm. I think they were just dating at the time, but she has element manipulation powers. So now we have the issue 8. We see Scarlet Witch, Toad, and Quicksilver, but it's Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Beast, and they are going up against a bunch of Sentinels. Not exactly sure kind of what was going on with that, but then we see the Fantastic Four and the X-Men are kind of talking, and this all has to do with the aliens that the professor kind of faked his death to stop the invasion. They're kind of coming back. So Jean Grey goes and gets her original school uniform. It's kind of the only thing that she has that's clean, so to speak. And we find out that the Xenox, this alien race, as Professor X said, are going across the galaxy, kind of attacking other planets, and they need to be stopped. At this point, we meet, I believe this is Jason Wingard, or is it? Oh no, this is Professor Xavier. I apologize. This is Professor X kind of talking about how he detected the Xenox and kind of got everything going on that respect. Jason Wingard comes into it later, trust me. So in order to defeat the Xenox, so the Xenox are a race of aliens that have no empathy. Like zero empathy, zero emotion. So he connected them to every human being on the planet. And that way they felt what emotions were and they fucked off. So that was his big plan. And they fucked off, but they're still kind of planet hopping and they're still very dangerous. So Professor X is like, you and the Fantastic Four have to go and stop them. So they kind of get ready. At this point, we have the ship who is preparing to offload Angel and Aviana to this gentleman who I believe is... I can't actually think of his name right now. It'll come to me though. So the Fantastic Four and the three X-Men, Beast, Cyclops, and Marvel Girl, fly off into space. At this point, we see Candy Southern at the X-Mansion. She's got the run-of-the-mill. Havoc, Polaris, Lorna, and Kazar are flying across the Savage Land, trying to find the lost X-Men that they have failed to catch up to. Okay, so at this point, Human Torch jumps out of the ship, and there's a kind of a battle ensuing. And then we see Jean Grey get inhabited by some entity. Now, those of you that know the X-Men know exactly what this is. It's not going to be a surprise to you. But for those of you that don't know the X-Men, this is the Phoenix Force. This is the first time Jean Grey is exposed to the Phoenix Force. Now, one could argue that this is a slight retcon from the Chris Claremont Phoenix Saga and Dark Phoenix Saga. I disagree because the Phoenix Force here kind of doesn't stick around. So it's almost like because of this, in the later issues by Claremont, it was kind of drawn to Jean Grey. But it's open to interpretation. It's up to you if you take the hidden years as canon or not. That's perfectly fine. And so we see her kind of get a lot more power. Okay, I'm going to stop it here. This is going to be part 1 of this video, and I will continue with the other parts very, very shortly. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, hit that notification bell, of course. But most importantly, stay safe, have a fantastic rest of your day, and please, please, please go and watch part 2, people.